The rain fell hard on the forest moon of Nexus 9. Ty pulled his jacket tighter around his shoulders as he checked his compass again. The small device was his only working tool now. His other equipment had stopped working hours ago when water got inside. "Great," he muttered, wiping raindrops from his face. Lost in alien woods during the worst storm of the season. Ty was a research assistant at the Human Science Station. Today was supposed to be a simple soil collection mission. Go out, gather samples, come back before dark. But nothing was simple on Nexus 9. First, his vehicle broke down 10 kilometers from the station. Then his radio died. Now the storm had turned the forest paths into mud rivers, making it nearly impossible to find his way back. A flash of lightning lit up the sky, followed by a boom of thunder that shook the ground. Ty stumbled, catching himself against a massive tree trunk. As he steadied himself, he heard something, a weak sound barely audible above the rain. He paused, listening. There it was again, a soft clicking noise, like small stones being tapped together. Ty knew he should keep moving. The station had strict rules about interacting with local wildlife, especially the curva, the intelligent insect-like species that ruled this moon. But curiosity pulled him toward the sound, following the noise. He crouched down and peered between the twisted roots of the ancient tree. There, huddled in a small hollow, was a creature unlike any he had seen up close before. It was small, about the size of a human baby. Its body was covered in scales that should have been bright blue, according to the pictures in the station's database. But this creature's scales were dull gray. 6 thin limbs curled tightly against its body. A pair of small antennae drooped limply from its head. A HFY hatchling. Ty whispered in surprise. The young alien's compound eyes flickered weakly at the sound of his voice. All 6 of its eyelids blinked in an uneven pattern. It made another clicking sound, its small mandibles shaking. Ty knew the rules. Do not touch the wildlife. Do not interfere with the curva. Keep your distance and report any sightings to the science team. But the hatchling was clearly sick. Its breathing came in short, ragged gasps. Its body trembled violently. Ty looked around. No adult curva in sight. The nearest colony was supposed to be at least 20 kilometers away. How did this little one get here? And in this condition? You're a long way from home, aren't you? He said softly. The hatchling made a pitiful chirping sound that tugged at Ty's heart. He wasn't a xenobiologist like his friend Hannah, but he knew enough to see that this creature was dying. Another flash of lightning illuminated the forest. In that brief moment, Ty noticed something strange about the hatchling. There were markings on its thorax, faint violet patterns barely visible under a coating of mud. The rain was getting worse. Night would fall soon. If he left the hatchling here, it would surely die before morning. I'm probably going to regret this, Ty sighed, making his decision slowly. He reached into the hollow. The hatchling flinched at first, but was too weak to move away. With gentle hands, Ty lifted the small alien. It weighed almost nothing, its body burning with fever. Easy, little one, he whispered as he carefully removed his outer jacket. He wrapped the trembling creature in the waterproof material, making sure to keep its breathing passages clear. The hatchling's eyes fixed on Ty's face. There was intelligence in that gaze, a spark of awareness that made Ty pause. For a moment, he felt something brush against his mind, like a feather-light touch. Then it was gone, so quickly he wondered if he had imagined it. Let's get you somewhere warm and dry, he said, cradling the bundle against his chest. My friend Hannah will know what to do. As Ty began walking again, he felt a new sense of purpose. The compass pointed west toward the research station. It was still a long trek through the storm, but now he moved with determination. What Ty couldn't know was that the violet markings on the hatchling were not common. They were the royal insignia of the curva's most sacred bloodline. This was no ordinary hatchling. The small alien nestled against Ty's warmth, its mind touching his again, stronger this time. Images flashed through Ty's head, a massive chamber filled with curva, a large throne-like structure, and a sense of importance he couldn't understand. Weird, Ty muttered, shaking his head to clear it. This storm must be getting to me. The hatchling chirped weakly, its small claws gripping Ty's shirt through the jacket. Despite its illness, it seemed to be studying him with growing interest. After an hour of difficult hiking, Ty finally saw lights through the trees. The research station's tall fence came into view, its security lights cutting through the rain. Almost there, he told the hatchling, who had grown quieter in the past few minutes. Ty quickened his pace, worry growing as he felt the creature's breathing become more labored. At the gate, the security scanner recognized his ID chip and opened with a hiss. Ty hurried inside, leaving muddy footprints across the clean floor as he headed straight for the medical bay. "Hannah," he called out, his voice echoing down the corridor. "Hannah, I need help." The door to the medical bay slid open, and Hannah looked up from her workstation. Her eyes widened at the sight of Ty soaked, muddy, and clearly carrying something in his arms. "What happened to you?" she asked, rising from her chair. "You were supposed to be back hours ago. Director John has search teams ready to—" She stopped mid-sentence. As Ty carefully unwrapped the jacket, revealing the sick hatchling. "You brought a what?" Hannah's voice rose sharply, her professional calm cracking. "It's dying, Hannah," Ty said, gently placing the bundle on the examination table. "I found it alone in the forest. I couldn't just leave it there." As the jacket fell away, the hatchling's eyes opened fully for the first time since Ty had found it. All 6 compound eyes fixed on Hannah, then back to Ty, its antennae twitched weakly. Hannah approached cautiously, medical scanner in hand. "This is against every rule we have," she muttered, but her professional instincts were already taking over. The scanner hummed as she passed it over the hatchling's body. Suddenly, she froze, staring at the readings. "Ty," she whispered, her face pale, "do you have any idea what you found?" The hatchling chirped again, louder this time, as if trying to answer for itself. "What do you mean?" Ty asked, still dripping rainwater onto the clean floor of the medical bay. "It's a curva hatchling, right?" Hannah's fingers moved quickly over her scanner, checking the readings again. Her eyes grew wider with each passing second. "Not just any hatchling," she said in a hushed voice. "Look at these markings." She gently wiped away some of the mud from the creature's thorax. Under the bright lights of the medical bay, the violet patterns became clearer. They formed an intricate design that seemed to glow faintly against the dull gray scales. "I've only seen these markings in our research files," Hannah explained. "These are royal markings, Ty. This hatchling belongs to the ruling class of the curva." Ty felt his stomach drop. "How royal are we talking about?" "The highest level," Hannah said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Based on these specific patterns, this could be direct offspring of the queen herself." The hatchling made a weak chirping sound, as if confirming Hannah's words. Its breathing was becoming more labored, small bubbles forming at the breathing slits along its sides. "Can you help it?" Ty asked, suddenly aware of how serious the situation had become. Hannah hesitated, looking from the hatchling to Ty and back again. "I should call Director Jun first. This is a diplomatic incident waiting to happen. If a royal hatchling dies in our care, but it will definitely die if we do nothing." Ty interrupted. "Please, Hannah, you're the only one with xenobiology training." The hatchling's eyes fixed on Hannah, all 6 compound eyes blinking slowly. For a moment, Hannah felt the same strange mental touch that Ty had experienced in the forest, a gentle pressure against her thoughts, carrying feelings of pain and fear, but also hope. "All right," she decided, reaching for her medical kit. "But you need to call Director John while I work. He needs to know about this immediately." Ty nodded and stepped aside as Hannah began her examination. She worked carefully, her hands steady despite the pressure. First, she took detailed scans of the hatchling's internal systems. Then she collected small samples of the fluid bubbling from its breathing slits. "It has a severe respiratory infection," she announced after analyzing the samples. "The rain and cold made it worse. Its body temperature is dangerously high. Can you treat it?" Ty asked from the communication console where he was trying to reach Director John. "I think so. The infection seems similar to bacterial pneumonia in humans. I can modify some of our antibiotics to work with curva biology." Hannah prepared a small injection. "The tricky part is getting the dosage right. This hatchling is young, maybe only a few months old." As she worked, the hatchling watched her every move. Despite its weakness, there was a sharp intelligence in those compound eyes. When Hannah approached with the injection, the creature didn't pull away. Instead, It extended one thin limb toward her, as if understanding she was trying to help. "That's unusual," Hannah murmured. "The files say curva hatchlings are instinctively distrustful of unfamiliar beings. Maybe it knows we're trying to help," Tai suggested, finally connecting with Director Jun on the console. He quickly explained the situation, wincing as the director's voice rose in alarm. Hannah administered the injection carefully, then set up a small humidified chamber to help the hatchling breathe easier. She adjusted the temperature and oxygen levels to match what little data they had on curva hatchling requirements. "The director is on his way," Tai said, returning to the examination table. "He's not happy, I can imagine," Hannah replied, monitoring the hatchling's vital signs. "We've broken about a dozen protocols," the hatchling chirped softly. It sounds slightly stronger than before. It reached out a small clawed hand toward Tai, who instinctively offered his finger. The tiny claws wrapped around it with surprising strength. "It seems to trust you," Hannah observed. "I think it's trying to communicate," Tai said. "When I found it in the forest, I felt something in my mind, like it was reaching out." Hannah looked up sharply. "Telepathic contact. The research suggests only mature curva royalty have that ability. Maybe this one is special," Tai suggested. Hannah turned back to her scanner, running a more detailed neural scan. What she saw made her gasp. "These neural patterns are extraordinary," she said. "They're far more developed than they should be for a hatchling this age. The complexity is more like..." She trailed off, checking her data again. "More like what?" Tai prompted. "More like the patterns we've recorded from the Queen herself," Hannah finished, her voice filled with awe and growing concern. "Tai, I don't think this is just any royal offspring. This could be the next Queen." The door to the medical base slid open, and Director Jun entered. He was a tall man with a serious face that now looked deeply troubled. "Show me," he demanded without greeting. Hannah stepped aside, allowing the director to see the hatchling in the humidified chamber. The small alien was already looking better, its breathing less labored and its color beginning to improve slightly. "Do you understand what you've done?" Director Jun asked, his voice low and controlled. "The curva are extremely protective of their young. If they discover we have one of their royal hatchlings, it was dying," Tai said firmly. "I couldn't leave it in the forest." Director Jun sighed heavily. "Your compassion may have just endangered our entire mission on this moon." He turned to Hannah. "What's its condition?" "Stabilizing," she reported. "The antibiotics seem to be working. The fever is coming down, and the respiratory distress is improving." "Good," the director nodded. "Keep it alive and healthy. I need to contact Earth Command immediately for guidance. This situation is beyond our protocols." As they spoke, the hatchling's color continued to improve. The dull gray was slowly giving way to a pale blue tint. The violet markings seemed to brighten, becoming more distinct suddenly. All the lights in the medical bay flickered. The hatchling chirped loudly, its antennae standing straight up. "What was that?" Director Jun demanded. Before anyone could answer, the communication console beeped urgently. The security officer's voice came through, tense and worried. "Director, we're detecting multiple curva signatures approaching the station perimeter. They appear to be warriors, sir. At least 20 of them." The hatchling chirped again, louder this time. In that moment, both Tai and Hannah felt a strong mental touch, not just emotions now, but a clear image. A massive curva with elaborate violet markings, radiating power and fury. "I think," Tai said slowly, "the Queen knows her child is here." The hatchling's eyes fixed on Tai, and a new feeling flowed into his mind, not fear, but something unexpected: protection. As if the small creature was promising to keep him safe, Director Jun moved quickly to the console. "Seal all external doors. No one goes in or out. And bring me our copy of the diplomatic protocols. We're going to need them." The hatchling watched them all with its intelligent eyes, chirping softly as its strength continued to return. Deep in the heart of the curva colony, chaos reigned. The massive underground chamber that served as the central meeting hall buzzed with the sounds of hundreds of curva warriors and elders. Their clicking mandibles and tapping limbs created a storm of noise that echoed off the polished stone walls. In the center of this storm stood War Leader Mach, his blue carapace marked with battle scars. His antennae twitched with agitation as he addressed the gathered elders. The royal hatchling has been missing for 2 full cycles. He clicked in the complex language of the curva. Our search teams have covered the eastern forests, but found nothing. Eldarin, her ancient body bent with age, stepped forward. The storm washed away any scent trails. If the hatchling wandered out during the teaching ceremony, it could be anywhere in the forest by now. Another elder, his carapace a deep green, clicked angrily. Or it could be in the human settlement. We all know they collect specimens of our kind for their studies. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Relations with the humans had been peaceful but tense since their arrival 3 cycles ago. The humans claimed to be scientists, studying the moon's unique ecosystem. The curva had allowed their presence, but trust was thin. We cannot accuse without proof. Eldarin cautioned. The peace agreement. Peace means nothing if they have stolen the queen's successor. Interrupted a younger warrior, his mandibles clicking rapidly in anger. War leader Mach raised his front limbs for silence. I have already sent scouts to observe the human station from a distance. If they have the royal hatchling, we will know soon. High above the meeting chamber, in a vast cavern lined with glowing crystals, Queen Sarah sat motionless on her throne. At nearly 3 meters tall, she towered over even the largest warriors. Her massive compound eyes stared unseeing at the wall, her mind focused elsewhere. 2 attendants stood nearby, watching with concern. The queen had not moved or spoken for hours, not since she had felt the distress of her offspring fade from her mind. Should we call the healers? One attendant whispered to the other. The queen has never been silent for so long. Before the other could answer, Queen Sarah suddenly stirred. Her enormous body straightened, antennae rising to full height. My child lives, she announced. Her voice deep and resonant. The attendants bowed low. This is joyous news, Great Queen, one said. Shall we inform the colony? Not yet, the queen replied, her compound eyes blinking in a pattern that indicated deep thought. Something is different. The connection has changed. Queen Sarah had laid 12 eggs in her long life. As with all curva queens, only one would develop the special neural patterns needed to become her successor. This last hatchling had shown those patterns from the moment it emerged from its egg. The telepathic bond between them had been strong until the storm. Now, that bond felt strange. It was still there, but intertwined with something alien, something the queen had never felt before. Bring war leader Mach to me, she commanded. I will lead the search myself. The attendants clicked in surprise. The queen had not left the royal chambers in over 50 cycles. But Great Queen, one dared to speak. The danger is nothing compared to the loss of my successor. She finished firmly. My child is alive, but not alone. There's another mind connected to hers now. A mind unlike any curva in the meeting chamber below. The debate continued until a royal attendant rushed in. The gathered curva immediately fell silent, sensing important news. War leader Mach. The attendant clicked rapidly. The queen commands your presence. She will join the search for the royal hatchling. A wave of clicking and tapping spread through the chamber. The queen leaving her chambers was unprecedented. War leader Mach bowed deeply. I will prepare our finest warriors to escort her. There's more, the attendant continued. The scouts watching the human station report unusual activity. Many humans are gathering at their main building. They appear agitated. War leader Mach's antennae stiffened. Do they have our hatchling? Unknown, the attendant replied. But the queen says she feels her child's presence in that direction. Within the hour, Queen Sarah emerged from her chambers for the first time in 50 cycles. Her massive form, adorned with the sacred violet markings of royalty, moved with surprising grace despite her size. 20 elite warriors surrounded her, their weapons ready. As they marched through the main colony tunnel, ordinary curva pressed themselves against the walls, clicking in awe and fear. The sight of their queen outside the royal chambers was both thrilling and terrifying. The humans will surrender the hatchling or face our wrath, war leader Mach declared as they reached the forest edge. Queen Sarah raised one massive limb. We will not attack without certainty, war leader. I sense my child is not in danger. Not in danger? Mach's mandibles clicked in confusion. If the humans have taken the royal hatchling, then we will discover why, the queen finished. The connection I feel is unusual. There is no fear from my child, only curiosity. The queen paused, her enormous head tilting as she focused on the faint telepathic link. Through it, she could sense her offspring's improving health and strange new experiences. Most puzzling were the emotions connected to another mind, a human mind. The hatchling has formed a bond, she said, surprise evident in her clicking speech. A telepathic connection with a human. The warriors around her clicked in disbelief. Such a thing was unheard of. Curva royalty could communicate telepathically with each other and, to a lesser extent, with their own kind. But connecting with another species? Impossible. All the more reason to reclaim the hatchling quickly, War Leader Mach insisted. Before this unnatural bond grows stronger. Queen Sarah said nothing, but her compound eyes narrowed. The bond she sensed was already stronger than any she had felt between her offspring and others of their kind. This was unexpected, but perhaps not unwelcome. For centuries, the Curva had lived alone on this moon. The arrival of humans had brought change, and change was both dangerous and full of possibility. As they moved through the forest toward the human station, the queen continued to probe the telepathic link. Through her offspring's eyes, she caught glimpses of the human who had found the hatchling, a male with kind eyes, who had carried her child through the storm. She felt the hatchling's trust in this human, and its growing strength as the humans treated its illness. We approached the human boundary, War Leader Mach announced as they reached the edge of the cleared area. Surrounding the research station, the queen studied the metal and glass structure in the distance. Lights blazed from every window, and she could see humans moving inside. Their forms small and fragile compared to Curva. They know we are coming, she said, sensing her offspring's awareness of their approach. The hatchling has warned them. War Leader Mach's antennae flattened against his head in alarm. The royal hatchling protects the humans? This is worse than we feared, or better than we hoped, Queen Sarah replied, surprising the warriors around her. My successor shows wisdom beyond her age. She has formed a connection that no Curva has achieved before. She stepped forward, her massive form emerging from the forest shadow into the open ground. We will approach openly, she commanded, no weapons raised. I wish to meet this human who saved my child. Inside the research station, Director Jun stared at the security monitors with growing concern. The screens showed 20 armed Curva warriors emerging from the forest edge. At their center walked a massive figure that could only be the queen herself. This is unprecedented, he muttered, turning to face the small group gathered in the control room. The queen has never left her colony before, according to all our intelligence. Tai stood near the back, the hatchling now perched on his shoulder. In the hours since he had brought it to the station, the small alien had made a remarkable recovery. Its scales had brightened to a vibrant blue, and the violet markings now glowed with a soft inner light. The hatchling seemed perfectly comfortable with Tai, occasionally nuzzling against his neck or chirping softly in his ear. What do we do? Asked Hannah, who hadn't left the hatchling's side since beginning treatment. Director Jun straightened his uniform jacket. We follow diplomatic protocol. We meet them at the main entrance and explain the situation. We return the hatchling and hope they understand we meant no harm. The hatchling chirped loudly at this, its small claws tightening on Tai's shirt. A wave of emotion flooded Tai's mind, not fear exactly, but something like reluctance. I don't think it wants to go, Tai said, surprised by the strength of the feeling. It doesn't matter what it wants, Director Jun replied firmly. That's the queen of the entire Curva species out there. We can't keep her child. The security officer at the monitor spoke up. Sir, they've stopped at the perimeter fence. The queen is signaling for us to come out. Director Jun took a deep breath. All right. Tai, bring the hatchling. Hannah, you come too. We may need to explain the medical treatment. Everyone else stays inside and on alert. As they walked through the station's corridors toward the main entrance, Tai felt the hatchling's mind touching his more strongly than ever before. Images flashed through his thoughts: the queen, the colony, a large chamber filled with glowing crystals. But mixed with these were newer images: Tai finding the hatchling in the rain, Hannah treating its illness, the warm lights of the human station. I think it's trying to tell me something, Tai whispered to Hannah as they followed Director Jun. The neural connection seems to be growing stronger, she replied. It's fascinating. No human has ever reported telepathic communication with a curva before. The main doors slid open, revealing the outside world. The rain had stopped, but the air remained heavy with moisture. Director Jun stepped out first, his back straight, and his face composed into a diplomatic mask. Tai and Hannah followed, with the hatchling still perched on Tai's shoulder. The sight before them was intimidating. 20 curva warriors stood in perfect formation, their blue carapaces gleaming in the station's lights. Their compound eyes reflected the light like hundreds of tiny mirrors. Each carried a long staff that hummed with energy weapons that human scientists had never been allowed to study up close. In the center of this formation stood the queen. She was enormous, nearly 3 times the size of her warriors. Her violet markings covered her entire body in complex patterns that seemed to shift and move in the dim light. 6 massive limbs supported her weight, while 4 smaller arms were folded across her thorax. Her head, with its huge compound eyes and gently waving antennae, turned toward the humans with unnerving precision. "I am Director Jun of Earth Science Station Nexus 9, Jun called out, his voice steady despite the tension. "We welcome Queen Sarah of the Curva." The queen's mandibles moved, and a series of clicks and whistles emerged. A small device on Director Jun's wrist translated, "You have my child." It wasn't a question. The queen's compound eyes fixed on the small form perched on Tai's shoulder. "Yes, Your Majesty." Director Jun replied with a small bow. "One of our researchers found your offspring alone in the forest during yesterday's storm. It was gravely ill. He brought it here for medical treatment, not knowing its importance." The queen stepped forward, separating from her warriors. A tall curva with battle scars moved to follow her, but she raised one limb to stop him. "I would speak with the one who found my child." The translation device clicked. Director Jun gestured for Tai to step forward. He did so slowly, very aware of the small weight on his shoulder. "This is Research Assistant Tai." Jun introduced. He found the hatchling. The queen lowered her massive head until her compound eyes were level with Tai's. This close, he could see the incredible complexity of those eyes, thousands of tiny facets, each reflecting his own nervous face back at him. "You carried my child through the storm." The queen's translated voice stated. Tai swallowed hard. "Yes, Your Majesty. It was sick and alone. I couldn't leave it there." The hatchling chirped loudly, suddenly leaping from Tai's shoulder to hover in the air between him and the queen. Its small wings, which Tai hadn't even noticed before, buzzed rapidly to keep it aloft. What happened next astonished everyone present. The hatchling and the queen touched antennae in what appeared to be an intimate greeting. Then, instead of staying with its mother, the hatchling flew back to Tai and settled once more on his shoulder. The queen's massive head tilted slightly. "Interesting," the translator clicked. "My child has formed a bond with you, human Tai." I think so, Your Majesty," Tai admitted. "I can feel its thoughts sometimes. Not words exactly, but feelings, images." A ripple of clicking sounds came from the warriors behind the queen sounds. The translator didn't catch, but which seemed like expressions of shock or disbelief. The scarred warrior stepped forward. "Great Queen, this is unnatural. The royal hatchling must return to the colony immediately for proper development." The queen turned her head slightly. "Be silent, war leader Mock. What we witness here is unprecedented, not unnatural." She turned back to Tai. "My successor has shared her experiences through our telepathic bond. She was indeed dying when you found her. Our healers had not anticipated a mutation. In her immune system, a mutation your medicine somehow accommodated." Hannah stepped forward cautiously. "Your Majesty, if I may explain the treatment." "You are the healer," the queen interrupted, her enormous eyes shifting to Hannah. "My child holds gratitude for you as well." The hatchling chirped in agreement, its antennae waving happily. "But the bond with this human," the queen continued, focusing again on Tai, "is something I have never witnessed in all my cycles. My child refuses to break it." Director Jun cleared his throat nervously. "We have no intention of keeping the royal hatchling, Your Majesty. We understand its importance to your people." The queen's massive form seemed to relax slightly. "You misunderstand, Director Jun. I do not accuse you of theft. I come seeking understanding." She raised one enormous limb, pointing at Tai and the hatchling. This connection between species has never occurred in our history. It may hold great significance for both our peoples. The hatchling chirped again, louder this time, and Tai felt a sudden flood of images and emotions in his mind too complex to fully understand, but carrying a clear message of desire to stay with him. At least for now, I think, Tai said slowly, looking up at the Queen. Your child isn't ready to go home yet. The silence that followed Tai's words seemed to stretch forever. Director Jun looked horrified, his diplomatic smile frozen on his face. The Curva warriors shifted uneasily, their weapons humming with energy. War Leader Mok's mandibles clicked rapidly in what could only be anger, but the Queen remained still, her enormous compound eyes fixed on Tai, and the hatchling perched on his shoulder. Explain, she finally said, the translation device making her command sound flat and simple. Tai took a deep breath. He wasn't a diplomat or a scientist. He was just a research assistant who had found a sick creature in the rain. But now he stood between two species, trying to explain something he barely understood himself. Your child has been sharing thoughts with me, he began carefully. Not words, but feelings and images. Right now, it's showing me pictures of both places, your colony and our station. It seems to want both. The hatchling chirped in agreement, its antennae waving excitedly. It leaped from Tai's shoulder and hovered in the air between him and the Queen, its small wings beating rapidly. Impossible, War Leader Mok clicked forward. The royal hatchling must return to complete the sacred development cycle. The future of our entire species depends on proper training. The Queen raised one massive limb, silencing the warrior. My child is showing unusual wisdom, she said. Perhaps we should listen. She lowered her enormous head until she was at eye level with the floating hatchling. Their antennae touched again, and Tai felt a strange sensation like standing near a powerful electrical field. The air between mother and child seemed to shimmer with unseen energy. After a long moment, the Queen straightened to her full height. Remarkable, the translator clicked. My successor has developed more in these few days with humans than many hatchlings do in a full cycle. What does that mean? Director Jun asked cautiously. It means, the Queen replied, that my child has made a royal decision, the first of many she will make in her lifetime. The hatchling chirped happily and flew back to Tai, settling once more on his shoulder. Its small claws gently gripped his shirt, and its antennae brushed against his cheek in what felt like affection. Your Majesty, Hannah spoke up, stepping forward with a medical scanner in hand. If I may explain what happened medically. The hatchling had a severe respiratory infection that our antibiotics were able to treat. But during recovery, we noticed something unusual in its neural patterns. The Queen's antennae twitched with interest. Continue, human healer. The hatchling's brain activity increased dramatically after treatment. Hannah explained, especially in the areas we believe are responsible for telepathic communication. It's as if the connection with Tai somehow accelerated its development. War Leader Mok clicked angrily. This is dangerous. The royal hatchling's mind is being influenced by alien thoughts, or expanded by them. The Queen countered. She turned back to Tai. Human Tai. What do you feel from my child now? Tai closed his eyes, focusing on the gentle presence in his mind. Happiness, he said after a moment. Curiosity, and something like purpose. It's showing me images of Curva and humans together, working side by side. The Queen's enormous head nodded slowly. Yes, my successor sees possibilities that we elders have been blind to. Our species have lived as cautious neighbors, but never true allies. She turned to address Director Jun. Your kind came to our moon to study its life. We permitted this because you showed respect for our boundaries. But boundaries can become barriers if we allow them to harden. Director Jun looked surprised, but quickly composed himself. We have always hoped for greater cooperation with the Curva, Your Majesty. Hope is not enough. The Queen replied. Action is required. My successor has shown the way. She gestured toward the hatchling on Tai's shoulder. This young one will one day rule all Curva. When that time comes, she will carry with her an understanding of humans that no Curva has ever possessed. The Queen's next words stunned everyone present. I propose an exchange. My child will divide her time between our colony and your station. She will learn from both worlds, War Leader Mach stepped forward, his posture rigid with shock. Great Queen, this has never been done. The royal development cycle is sacred and will continue, the Queen interrupted firmly. But with new elements. The old ways brought us stability, War Leader. But stability without growth leads to stagnation. She turned back to the humans. In return, I request that human Tai visit our colony regularly. My successor has formed a bond with him that should be maintained. Tai's eyes widened in surprise. Me, visit the Curva colony? No human had ever been invited inside the Curva's underground home. It was perhaps the most closely guarded location on the entire moon. Director Jun looked equally shocked. This is a great honor, Your Majesty. But I must consult with Earth Command before. Of course, the Queen clicked, her massive head nodding. Your hierarchies must be respected, as must ours. War Leader Mach will need time to accept this change as well. The scarred warrior's antennae drooped slightly at being singled out, but he remained silent. The hatchling suddenly chirped loudly and leaped from Tai's shoulder. It flew in a quick circle around his head, then darted over to Hannah, hovering before her face for a moment before returning to Tai. My child wishes the healer to visit as well, the Queen translated. She believes an exchange of medical knowledge would benefit both our peoples. Hannah's face lit up with excitement. I would be honored, Your Majesty. The Queen's enormous compound eyes seemed to soften as she watched the hatchling return to Tai's shoulder. This is only the beginning, she said. My successor sees far beyond what any of us have imagined. A future where our species work together rather than merely coexist. She raised one massive limb in a formal gesture. Human Tai, you will be granted the status of Curva Friend, a designation not given in 12 generations. You will be permitted to enter our sacred chambers and learn our ways, so that you may better understand the one you have bonded with. Tai bowed deeply, feeling the weight of the moment. Thank you, Your Majesty. I promise to honor this trust, the hatchling chirped happily, its antennae gently brushing against Tai's cheek. In his mind, Tai felt a wave of joy and excitement, emotions so clear they might as well have been words. Director Jun stepped forward. We should formalize this arrangement, Your Majesty. Perhaps a written agreement. The Curva do not need paper to remember promises. The Queen interrupted. But we will accommodate your customs. Send your words to us, and we will mark them with our royal seal. She turned to address her warriors. Today marks a new chapter in our history. When my successor takes the throne, she will lead a people who understand their neighbors, not merely tolerate them. As the formal proceedings continued, Tai felt the gentle touch of the hatchling's mind against his own. Images flowed between them, the vast underground chambers of the Curva colony, the laboratories of the human station, and something new, a structure that seemed to be half human, half Curva in design. Is that the future? Tai whispered to the small creature on his shoulder. The hatchling chirped softly, its compound eyes blinking in a pattern that somehow conveyed certainty. In saving one small life, Tai had unknowingly changed the future of two species. The sick hatchling he had carried through the rain would one day be queen, and she would remember the kindness of the human who had cared for her when she was small and vulnerable. As the sun began to rise over the forest moon of Nexus 9, its light fell on something never seen before: Curva and humans standing together, not as cautious neighbors, but as the beginning of true allies.